Everybody's saying that James Franklin's going to end up at Virginia Tech, but now there is momentum for him to land back in the SEC, and that would actually be a bit of an issue for Penn State.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Zach Seyko, host of Locked On Nittany Lions, hanging out with us today. James Franklin, you guys fired him several weeks ago, and now you're seeing James Franklin's name at the top of every hot board of everybody who's opened their job in the SEC. In your mind, would he make sense as the head coach for the Auburn Tigers?
Tons of sense, but James Franklin is playing the waiting game because everything is pointing to him to Virginia Tech. And Virginia Tech social media has been ablaze. I've seen so many Virginia Tech fans just across my social media feed saying, "Oh, we got James Franklin," or the deal's in the works. It's all but done. I'm in the category of I need to see it to believe it, because I don't think James Franklin believes that he's an ACC level coach. I think he's patiently waiting for either Auburn or Florida to give him a call. Now, I talked to our counterpart over at Locked On LSU, Matt Moscona, and he says James Franklin's name hasn't even been uttered once when it comes to the powers that be at LSU. So Auburn, Florida, I think James Franklin is just playing the waiting game. If they don't call him, he'll probably end up at Virginia Tech. But if they do give him a call, he's definitely going to reciprocate that interest.
So this is a guy who won double-digit wins last year, multiple playoff games.
Beat Auburn twice.
Last year, beat Auburn. Thank you. Thanks
You're
for
welcome.
adding that. Appreciate that. You came ready to go with that one. But are you a little surprised that more programs aren't chomping at the bit to get a guy who's won multiple playoff games last season, Seyko? I'm a little surprised by it.
Depends on who you ask, because it's
I'm asking you. What do you think?
Okay, so you ask me. The narrative continues to shift because I don't know how you felt when the playoff run happened last year or the postseason, but most people were saying that Penn State's fraudulent. They get an easy path. They're going to make it to the semifinals. They're going to backdoor their way into the semifinals because it's SMU, it's Boise State. They'd get crushed by anybody else, and then they end up losing on a last-second field goal to Notre Dame. So be it. But now it's, he's won multiple postseason, won multiple college football playoff games. But I've always been told that Franklin's a problem coach because he can never win the big game.
Right.
And Penn State is fraudulent because they basically get an easy schedule and then they drop to whatever. It's Ohio State, it's Michigan, it's whatever the top two teams in the Big Ten are. They just can't win. James Franklin can't win the big game. And now Penn State makes that move to say, okay, I guess we hear you. He can't. He's proven to us time and time again that this is it. This is where we're capped. And then now it's, well, why are you going to fire him? Why are you going to let him go? How dare you do that? It's a dumb move. You're just Nebraska 2.0 waiting to happen. And it's like, you're darned if you do, darned if you don't situation. Just know what you're getting with James Franklin is that truly in those kinds of moments, his teams shrink. They just do.
Yeah. Yeah. Penn State, with where they're positioned in the Big Ten, I don't think is that much different than where Auburn is positioned in the SEC. I mean, the same stuff that Franklin was talking about is the same stuff that we've talked about with several of Auburn's past coaches. Gus had a bit of a better record against them than other people, but like with Harsin and obviously with Hugh Freeze, not beating Georgia or Alabama is like James Franklin not being able to beat Ohio State or Michigan, two elite programs that you're just, tasked with trying to beat every year. And it's like, I don't know what reasonable expectations should be, but you can't go over if you're there for that long, right? I think everybody agrees with that. And so then my question is like, all right, would James Franklin be able to come into Auburn and beat Georgia and Alabama? Or, maybe LSU when they're playing well, or, we're seeing Oklahoma and Texas now. So Are they going to, would he be able to come in and beat those types of teams? Past data would suggest no.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, when you compare it to Ohio State and Michigan, or I know that Michigan's taken somewhat of a step back here. They're not that Jim Harbaugh team, right? But Georgia and Alabama, it's whoever those top two are. Okay, now it's Ohio State and Oregon. Penn State proved that under the direction of James Franklin, he could not win those games, even when the deck was stacked in his favor. I mean, you had all the leverage against Oregon, and you still lost at home in the whiteout game. Besides that point, so Georgia and Alabama, that's going to be tough to do on a year-to-year basis, but James Franklin believes that he would be able to do it. Here's the thing, though, with Franklin, and when you compare it, Brian Harsin, would he be like him? I think he'd be closer to Gus Malzahn just because of the recruiting aspect. Brian Harsin didn't want to recruit at all. He just wanted no business in that. James Franklin is a people person, so he would be able to build out Auburn. You would have the resources, the war chest to go to battle with. And I think that's why he's a little hesitant at Virginia Tech, because his ego says that he and his agent say that he belongs in the SEC, that he belongs in the Big Ten. And okay,
I think he does. I think that's correct, by the way.
Yes, to an extent, because LSU's not mentioning his name. I don't think he should go to a place like LSU. I think he's lost a little bit of his credibility because now it is officially settled in. There's no room for doubt anymore. There's no benefit of the doubt. You are going to lose those big games until you prove otherwise. How do you change that at Auburn? How do you change that anywhere? Is going to be a major question, because I think he would be good at Virginia Tech for his own sake, and then use that to reestablish himself, to leapfrog back into the Big Ten or the SEC. But if a job comes calling, you don't pass it up, because what's the point of doing 3 to 4 years at Virginia Tech just to try to jump to Auburn, to Florida? Why waste the time? If they're going to give you a call, do it now. Yeah, no, I think that makes a ton of sense. There's still a few other things about this that I don't think are entirely consistent, Seyko, and I want to jump into that. And then obviously just a big question of what's the likelihood of this happening? That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. And this episode is brought to you by SupplyHouse. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business are available. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Do you need parts fast for a project? Well, SupplyHouse has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The Part Finder tool and the Part Finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. And their Trademaster perks, like priority shipping and dedicated support, make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's right, $300 in bonus bets to use all across FanDuel. Whether that's NBA basketball, pro football, college football, lines are available for Penn State versus Indiana. The Hoosiers are 14.5-point favorites on the spread, minus 700 on the money line, plus 500. If you're thinking Penn State for the upset, the total is set at 48.5. If you like those lines, you can bet them over at FanDuel.com and the FanDuel app. And remember, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I'm seeing so many Auburn fans and so many Florida fans, and we could probably put other fan bases in that are looking for a coach.
that when the name James Franklin comes up, they scoff at it. They say, we don't want James Franklin.
It's not a bad hire.
And I'm like, well, this is a guy who has done at Penn State, like the last few years, what we would have killed for here at Auburn. Consistent double-digit wins, playoff appearances. I'm fine if you don't think he's the guy, and I think I agree with you. But I am surprised that, like, these fans of teams that have struggled for the last 5 years just scoffing at the names James Franklin.
I mean, tell me how Auburn fans would feel with that. Literally, you laid it out. 10-2 record. You get in as potentially, and I'm not saying that, they're just going to face SMU, Boise State every time around. That's not what I'm trying to say. But 10-2 is a lot better than what Auburn's been as far as I'm concerned over the past.
Dude, if you gave me 10-2 and those 2 losses are Bama and Georgia, I'm like, okay, all right. Maybe we got a shot at it.
And because you're in the SEC, you get an equal chance as everybody else to get in the college football playoff. It is tough to win both in the Big Ten and the SEC. 9-3 in the SEC could potentially get you in, depending on who those losses are too.
Eventually, there will be a 9-win SEC team in the playoff, 100%.
Yeah. So James Franklin, Auburn fans should be skeptical. There should be, okay, can you right your wrongs that you had at Penn State? Absolutely, but he raises the floor completely. What the ceiling is to be determined. It's debatable. Hey, sometimes you just need a change of scenery. Maybe it was just getting, he had grown. You could tell that he was exhausted from Penn State. You could tell for whatever it was, upper management, not because there were rumors about discrepancies with an extension. Did that disgruntle him? So there wasn't that working relationship that he kept saying that, hey, there's all this alignment, and then behind the scenes, there's actually no alignment. So did that and then the Penn State fans they booed him, and eventually that wears on you. So what if you get a fan base that is, hey, we're all in, we're ready to support you, you have everything you need. Keandre Lambert-Smith goes from Penn State to Auburn. Look at how he did. He turned around his career, or at least was able to benefit at the end of his college tenure.
Maybe Peyton Falzone will get it going.
Yeah. I mean,
Alvin Henderson hadn't really got a chance yet, but we'll see what happens.
So they never spent their time at Penn State, right? Those were guys that were committed but never actually played at Penn State. Bottom line is a change of scenery can sometimes just do everybody justice. Okay, whether that's for Auburn, whether that's for James Franklin, I think it's a good hire. You just have to do you think that James Franklin is the goal national titles above all else? Because that's what Penn State has declared, and they believe that they are not going to achieve that goal with James Franklin.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that national titles are the goal, but first you got to get to the dance. First, you got to get to the playoff before
James, I think he could do that for Auburn.
I think he could too. Do you think? I'm going to assume that we've talked similar. I mean, you've been talking about a coaching search for a while, so I feel comfortable saying some of these names to you. Like, do you think he's a better coach than Jon Sumrall?
See, how is Jon Sumrall? Okay, he's winning at Tulane in the group of 5, group of 6, whatever it is. I can't keep track anymore.
Right.
And not the power 2, not the power 4. How is he going to do because that Billy Napier just would get out coached left and right. I know that Jon Sumrall is a great program manager and he's winning at Tulane, but would he be able to out coach? And I know that's rich of me to say when it's like you just dealt with the James Franklin years of him getting out coached, not against the better teams. But I think of Jon Sumrall to Billy Napier, that Billy Napier just looked lost against everybody. He was getting out coached and then just won purely by the talent he was able to recruit. James Franklin, he would get out-coached in select situations, but not all the time. So that's kind of my concern there with Sumrall, is that when he gets to the big boy league, are you going to get out-coached by Mississippi State, for example?
Kenny Dillingham or James Franklin?
Oh, I like the upside because there's the unknown with Kenny Dillingham. The fact that he's had that kind of success immediately at Arizona State with the limitations of resources. If you're telling me, right, I want to speak from the Penn State point of view. Point of view. Would I rather go with James Franklin again? Let's just say, hey, we'll forget it. Bygones be bygones. Let's bring you back. Or would I go with Kenny Dillingham? I'd go with Kenny Dillingham.
Yeah, I think I would too. And then, the other name that I think a lot of Auburn people want, and I'm partially in this camp, is DJ Durkin. Has been incredibly good for Auburn as a defensive coordinator. Only 3 teams this year have, not allowed more than 24 points in a game. Auburn is one of them, and somehow we have lost all of these games. DJ Durkin, Auburn's interim. This one may be hard for you to answer, but would you take the chance of the upside with DJ Durkin, or would you go with James Franklin?
I just know if I'm not mistaken, DJ Durkin was Maryland's head coach for a period of time, and
Correct.
he didn't have a lot of success. Again, I know that the situation it's hard to win at some of these other schools.
Totally.
But if you give them full control and full resources, and it's just a fit, I imagine that DJ Durkin could work. But what is the turnaround? Because I feel like James Franklin gives Auburn the best chance to win as soon as possible, because he's going to here's what I want to inject to this conversation is I don't want James Franklin to get back into coaching immediately. I would rather him take the media analyst role, which I think would be great for you, James. I think you should take a 1 to 2 year sabbatical and go the media route, because you did well on that ESPN College Game Day interview. I'm teasing, but I do mean that, but I also don't, because he's going to recruit against Penn State just for the sake of it, and that's where all his connections are. So yeah. Pennsylvania, DC, Maryland, Virginia, it's plausible to think that he'll probably get a roster from Penn State that is already in flux with the amount of turnover that it's going to have with the seniors moving on. He's going to go get what's left, or at least try. And with Auburn having NIL, being a place where, I can play football here, I can exist here. It's not a terrible area to be. It's a great area to go to school. And James Franklin would have that. And when we're in a national recruiting landscape, I guess it's a little different. But no, you're seeing East Coast recruits go to Los Angeles.
Totally.
For whatever reason, whether it's NIL or just because it's not so regionalized anymore. So whether James Franklin's at Virginia Tech, I would actually be more concerned if he was at Auburn or Florida, because he would have the war chest to go to battle with. At VT, it's a little different, and it's the ACC. It matters to players if you're playing in the Big Ten or the SEC versus the ACC and the Big 12.
No, I agree with that for sure. Last thing, I think in a perfect situation, whoever's Auburn's next head coach keeps DJ Durkin on staff. This is a similar situation at Penn State, because you guys also had an incredibly highly paid coordinator.
Yep.
I think DJ Durkin's right behind him. Do you think James Franklin would be okay keeping DJ on staff, or would he say, no, we're going to kind of bring in all of my own people?
I don't know what his connections. He might have a prior connection to DJ Durkin in some capacity.
I don't think they do. At least okay. like they may have a relationship that we don't know about, but I don't think they've worked together before.
I think there would be some balance. I don't think he'd be opposed to it. That's tough for me to speak on because James Franklin
I'm just asking you to guess.
He was in a situation. I don't think he'd be totally against it, because DJ Durkin has proven that he can succeed as a defensive coordinator. Okay. And if you add some better assistant coaches around you, you get that alignment that he's referred to for a long time. You just increase the talent. Recruiting's going to help. Auburn is not broke. They're going to be able, like I said, I think James Franklin raises Auburn's floor, and he can win quicker than Kenny Dillingham, Jon Sumrall, at least in the short term. And then long term, when you want to try to discuss, hey, now it's time to take another step, national titles, that's where it's to be determined. But James Franklin could actually have Auburn at 9-3, potentially 10-2 if things go well sooner rather than later, above everybody else.
Yeah. Zach, Seyko, thank you for your time. How can people check out everything you've got going on?
That's the same as you. YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, daily talking about Penn State.
Absolutely. Go give him some love. Please like the video. Please subscribe if you're tuned in on audio. Please leave us a review and make sure you're subscribed there as well. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.